Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Adams Rite number 4189-09-01119-00-IB sliding door flush lock set with no exterior cylinder. So the 4189 is a sliding door lock. It's one of the locks in this small series, and this lock, being a complete lock set, is comprised of all of the parts that you require to install this lock set. And we're going to go through all these parts piece by piece here, along with the installation instructions. So the place to really start with is understanding how that part number is derived and therefore what it means as it pertains to what you need. And that's how these parts are put together. So first of all, the easiest way to do that is with especially Adams Rite, but most manufacturers. There is a legend or a table by which you can derive the logic, how to put your lock together. And there are links down below this video that allow you to review the important technical details of the item. First of all, there's a link below here called template. It's probably better if it was called cut sheet, because it's the tear sheet out of the catalog of from the manufacturer. On page 2 of that, and we're going to tackle the part number first, you can see how the part numbers are derived. So, in my experience, if you have a lock that has metal trim, then you have the 4189 or 4190 series locks. If your trim is plastic, you have a 4430 or a 4431 series. So if it's metal, then you're looking at the right video to begin with, and probably the right item as well. So that's the first decision that you have to make. What is your trim made of? Page 2 of the catalog shows us how the part number is derived. So the first question becomes let's, in the interest of building our proper lock that we need, let's look at each section of the part number. So, do you have a cylinder or do you not have a cylinder? Or is it simply just a dummy trim where there are 2 blank plates bolted back to back? If there is no dummy cylinder, then it's a if there is no cylinder, then it's a 4189, such as the lock in this video. If there is a cylinder, you know you need a 4190. If you had a pair of doors that biparted, let's say, and one door locked into the other, and the inactive door just has those dummies mounted to each other, screwed to each other, then you've got the 4195. Very uncommon, but they do exist. Now, the rest of the logic, you can now understand how we're going to put the part number to derive what you need. So the next section is going to be the lock face, and we're going to go through this as we go through the part number. Let's back up. 4189. That does mean, of course, that we've got an exterior trim that does not have a preparation for the cylinder. You can see that the casting permits it, but there's no hole drilled through the outside of that to allow your cylinder to come through. So this is literally a dummy trim on the outside, okay, that has no function of permitting access from the exterior when the door is locked. It can only work when the door is unlocked. Dimensional properties. Overall height, 8 3/4, maybe a little heavy on that. Overall width, about 1 1/4 inches. You've got that tab that you're going to sneak up into the preparation in the door, and that will become flush. And then from the interior is where you're going to mount the screws to hold the entire lock set together. So this is the exterior trim. And by the way, and we'll get to it later, but this is the 119, if you look forward in the table, meaning black. So what we're looking at here is a black color. Moving to the next part of the part number, the 09. Now the 09 refers to simply, your options are 09 or 09S, 10 or 10S. The 09 or 10 simply refer to what is the treatment of the lock body. Is it radiused or is it square? This is obviously radiused, and that's how this client's door was prepped. So they needed a radiused top and bottom preparation, meaning when the manufacturer of the door prepped that lock, they just routed it with their router and then go back and square out the corners. Very common. I would say that the 09 is more common than the 10, the square version, but you do have to check to see what you have. And by the way, this video, the cut sheet, a tape measure, all is important when you're determining which lock you need. Now, if it was a 10, you'd have a square prep here. If you add an S to the end of either of those, you're going to get a stainless version, stainless face outside versus just the zinc sort of silver color that's here. Okay, that's your lock body. Moving further, now it's very important when you're building this lock that you understand and get correct all of the aspects, especially at least as much as the preparation on the lock face will be the door thickness, because the interior trim and the length of the tailpiece and the screws that you'll get with it are all related and based on the door thickness as well. Okay, now certainly the -01 is it is indeed the most common version in terms of a door thickness range. This lock happens to be the 01 as well, so we're looking at a door that has a thickness of 1 to 1 3/8. But as you see the other options there, be mindful to order the correct lock. Overall height of this trim, again, about 8 7/8. Overall width, about 1 1/4 inches. Let's back up. The lock body. Overall height, about 4 inch. The width of that faceplate, just heavy on a 1/2 inch. Overall height of the faceplate, about 3 1/8 or 3 3/16, right in that range. Overall width of the body, about 1 1/8 inches. Okay, now the interior trim, the thickness is going to be related to the length of the tailpiece and the screws that you're going to use here and here to connect it to those 2 points. Right, like that. That's how that'll look. Okay. And speaking of the screws, they are included for the lock body itself, the short ones that are there. Then the longer ones with the painted black head would be to put the interior escutcheon, screwing it, attaching it to the exterior escutcheon. So that field is the door thickness. After that, it's finish. 130 for aluminum, 119 for black, and 121 for dark bronze. Then after that, you've got keying options. This is obviously a 4189, so it can only be the -00 because there's no cylinder. If you were ordering, if you had 2 doors on your house and you wanted them keyed alike, you'd probably order the 02, etc. The 50 would be if you're building a large building for some reason that had sliding balcony doors and you literally wanted them all to be keyed alike, you could do that as well. Or just the 01 would be common. The -IB, that simply means that they're individually boxed. So when you buy one, it's going to be complete in its own box. That's what that means. Now the next part of this video is going to move on to a review of the extended description of the item, the details down below this video. Now moving into the extended description, basically all of those parts of the part number are defined. So you can review that at your leisure, reinforce, call us if there's any questions regarding that. Let's move into the installation instructions, and that link again is down below here as well. So the installation instructions, basically, you know, they're a drawing of what preparation you're required to have in the door. A short definition of parts, I suppose. But it's literally, the lock body goes in, the 2 plates go on, screw them together, you're done. If you're doing a new installation, you're going to want to review the dimensional properties of the hardware as shown on the hard right-hand corner of that. The vertical height, there's no set requirement for that if you're doing a new installation, other than probably making it compatible with existing heights elsewhere in the space. Things of that nature. They don't give a recommended height, but keep in mind the trim will be noticeably lower than the lock body. So where you're going to put the lock body, keep in mind, I guess what I'm saying is, This is the part that communicates to the lock body. So wherever you install that lock body, your usable plate will be noticeably lower. And it's going to give you dimensions for all of that. We talked about the preparation size that you need. The dashed lines there in the edge of the lock show if you were doing a dash 10 version, so you'd square those out. A center to center of that would be 3 and 11/16 center to center of the screw holes. That location will give you the proper centers to prep the holes for those two screws so you can get the lock body. Oh, I've got it upside down. Get the lock body inside and fixed to the door itself. Might want to you might want to have the lock body itself retracted so that you can hold on as you insert it in, the hook itself, while you're attaching it. You don't want this to fall into the door naturally. Anyway, there's your hook. Okay. This will communicate to a slot generally that's been prepped in the jamb or the opposite door for that. A strike is not specifically included with this, as the door itself is generally prepped to receive the hook of the bolt. You will see the preparation for the faceplates as well, the height and the width of those faceplates along with the radius of what's needed for the lock body itself. The question becomes, the location of the edge prep to the face prep, and you'll see that there's one dimension that gives that to you. A relationship from the bottom screw hole for the lock body, 1.453 to the top of the preparation. From here, then to the face, to the top of the preparation for the trim is how that's going to work. Now, let's finish off the installation page. You've got all the dimensions of what needs to be prepped on the face of the door and in the edge and in the relationship to each other. You've got other dimensional properties that we've covered. Now let's look at the operation of this lock. Basically, when the tailpiece is installed into the hub of the lock itself, and because the lock is they're fixed. Both of these are in the fixed position. What really moves on the back side of this is this sliding piece of steel, which will allow the lock operation to work properly. And when you slide that up and down, even though it's difficult to do it, that's just generally how that's going to work when this moves up and down. Okay, now moving on to I'll link below this video to a document called Parts Diagram. Very handy document to have access to, because a lot of folks have existing locks, and that's generally the majority of times that we sell this material is when it's replacing one, not so much a new construction. But a client will call and say, I need the whole new lock. And then after we discuss that a while, we discover, well, only the exterior trim is a little cracked from being, damaged or whatever. The link to the parts drawing will allow you to see only the constituent parts. And I encourage you to replace only what's broken, because if there's nothing wrong with the existing lock, there'll be nothing wrong with the new lock, so therefore why replace it? Very handy. And exterior trims alone are very common to sell. And you'll see that you've got the exterior escutcheon assembly, part number 6. There are 2 part numbers that are there. Remember, we're doing the 4189 series, which is without cylinder. Now, if you have a cylinder prep on the outside, it'll be that 41-0943 part number that's there. So be mindful of understanding how those part numbers change. Then on the interior escutcheon, it's a bit tricky because the X's that you see there are the variables that you'll pull back from the original chart we discussed earlier. The pair of X's, that's the door thickness. Then the 3 X's after it is simply your part number. So you'll start with a 41-0942 and then build the rest of the part as needed. So the parts drawing is really handy if you need just constituent parts, and it's very likely that you do. Then how to order deadlocks is a link that's there as well. It is a summary of the catalog page where the 4189 series is found. It will give you the overview of everything that we've already touched on, but all of the associated products with it. And frankly, there's far more information there that's truly necessary and is there just for purposes of curiosity, quite frankly. Now, finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Adams Rite products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog, as well as their full parts drawing breakdown as well. Okay, so that is not only going to include the 4189, 4190, and then the sister 4430, 4431, which is again the plastic trim in there, but all of the items that are Adams Rite related. And that's a reason why I'm partial to Adams Rite, is because they make available to you all of the constituent parts necessary so that you can continue to get useful service out of the significant investment in hardware. You know, if all you've done is you've got a 4190 and you've lost the keys for the cylinder, go buy a whole new lock. We can sell you only the cylinder that will come with 2 brand new keys. So to me, that's an important reason why to consider Adams Rite, along with the fact they make hardware that no one else makes. However, their published parts drawing, their excellent technical service, and customer support all is why they earn the consideration. If you have any questions on the Adams Rite number 4189-09-01-119-IB sliding door lock or any other Adams Rite product, please feel free to reach out to us.